everyone. Good evening and welcome again to Hands Across the Water. Hope you're keeping well. I am your host, William. With me, as always, is our Baz and Marcus. But we have special guest from Not Another Rangers podcast, Scotty. Scott, we'll start with you, mate, as you're the guest. Obviously, how are you keeping?
I'm not bad, William. Could be better, could be worse, so I'm okay.
I know one of those ones. Well, Rangers weren't playing this weekend, so that's a positive, I suppose.
That's a positive. That was great. I actually miss the football when it's not. To be fair, yeah, I know a lot of folk don't, but I actually miss it. So it gives me something to focus on, but it's not been on. But no, everything's fine. Everything's been okay. Like I said to Marcus before I came on, it was a my uncle's funeral day, so that wasn't great. But it was you had to get a good send off. There's a lot of people there, so I'm quite happy about that.
Well, commiserations. But I didn't, as I said, I didn't get chatting to you. I was on pretty late there, so commiserations of thoughts with you and all your family, buddy. But as you say, but like Barry will tell you the same. Our side of the family, that's what we do. It's a drinking match sort of at the end. We just sort of enjoy the life. That's what we try to do anyway. And in our family, we have a few. I know you didn't drink today, but I mean, we'd have a few tins and just sort of look at the positives of someone's life and try and enjoy it. That's what I suppose like you do what you can as a family to get yourself through these things.
No, you do, William. You do, and like I said, it was a massive turnout. He done a lot for junior football, and he was a treasure, and he done everything else for a football club just close by here. So he was there for about 5, 6 years. So he done quite a lot. So there's a lot of people there today. So it was good to see. But it took a while to get it all done. It was like 3.5 weeks to get everything arranged. So it's been a while, but kind of glad it's over and uh, just move on for here. But like I say, his memory will live on me because he done a lot for the local community and stuff. So it was good to see.
Perfect. Brilliant, mate. Baz, how are you keeping?
Yeah, all good. Full sympathy, Scott, to you and your family, mate. I just want to put that in there before I move on. Yeah, all good. No Rangers this weekend, so I haven't had a headache. So except for the madness of X and the rumor mill, but apart from that, not too bad.
And yourself, Marcus, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all fine. Thanks. Just echo what Baz says. My commiserations there, Scott. But when we were talking before we came on air, it sounds as if he had a fantastic send off by the football community and beyond. So that must be of some comfort. So I wish you and the family all the best, mate. Yeah, all fine. Looking forward to the discussion tonight. Plenty to talk about.
Yeah, plenty to talk about. We're going to, this show was going to be talked mostly about our loan signings. So we will get to that towards the end. But there's a bit of news that's come out, obviously, over today and stuff. So we'll go through that. Obviously, first and foremost will be Tim Min Soo, 8.5 million. I think it's 10 million euros. Girona have I think the way it is over in Spain, most of the clubs I think have to have a buyout clause for these players, and Rangers have triggered that, which means Girona, I don't think they want to lose the player, but there's not much they can do if someone is willing to pay the money. Rangers seem to be willing to do that. Winger, 20 years old, South Korean player. Just before I come on, I was watching. There was a Bibim Ballers, you call them, you two South Korean guys. They basically watch all the South Korean players, and we're quite excited about him. They've done like a 15-minute video. If you want to watch that after this, explaining what they expect from him. They seem quite excited. Says he can play along the forward line. He can also play through the middle as a 10 role. Good passer of the ball. Likes to take a shot. A clean striker of the ball. They actually said one of the guys was saying he's quite physical as well, which was good music to my ears for obviously the Scottish Premier division where we play. We need players that have that. As I say, most of it was exciting. They seem very excited about him and think that he can basically one of the big hopes for South Korean football. One of the things they did say though, he can't at the minute. He can struggle the last full 90 minutes. We've heard that before with Yakota, etc. But if you have the players in the squad and you can bring players off, that's what we need. Build the squad so you can bring like Yakota or whatever on. And I think the team across the city's been doing that for years, to be fair. These Asian players, some of them just can't last the full 90, but it's because they give so much in the first 60, 70 minutes, etc. But look, I put it up on the Facebook page today already. The Rangers fans are on, and a lot of them not happy. But Scotty, at the end of the day, mate, it just seems to be the mood that the Rangers fans are in at the minute. But I think it's quite exciting, especially after listening to those two guys. As I say, they watch them all the time, and they think he's a cracking wee player. and hopefully for us, Scott, he is.
I think it's an exciting signing, to be fair. I don't know a lot about the lad, but you like to see other bringing in players for other continents, for other areas of the world, because we've not done that for a long time, and we're always getting slagged off with our own fan base saying don't sign a championship job or stuff like that. So looking out further afield, we see other teams going and buying for Asian market, and they turn out relatively good. So, and we've seen since Daisuke's come in how well he's played. So, yeah, I mean, they might be lacking match fitness, but I can build different things. But I'm excited, William. I think a lot of the players are bringing in, they're not, you can say call them project players, but are young. If they play well for us, then they know they might get a move to a bigger league. So, it's a win-win kind of thing for us. But I'm happy with that. But you know yourself, our fan base at the moment, like I said earlier on, before we come on, one bad pass and he's the person's written off, isn't it? It's like he's not good enough for us. Let's sell him. And sometimes we need to give players time, but at Rangers you don't get time. Not anymore. I don't know what's happened, but nowadays players don't get time. They get written off before. Some of them are written off before they sign the ball, depending where they're signed from, and others are just written off after 45 minutes. It's toxic, but everybody's entitled to their opinion at the end of the day. But it's not great, to be honest.
Maybe but bro, Baz, we discussing before we came on the phone earlier, and I was saying we're hating ourselves to death at some point, and but I can understand like it's frustrations. Haven't won anything, or well, haven't won very much at all in 15 years, so I can understand the frustration. But we have to give these guys chances. I think the likes of a perfect example is Devlin. Devlin came in, done a couple of nice tackles in the friendly games. Everybody says, "Oh my God, this guy's the best thing ever," and then makes a silly mistake in Europe, and everyone says the most useless guy they've ever seen. So this is the problem at Rangers. It's it's just the way it is. Until we get a team win on the park, this is what we're going to have to go with. But Baz, what's your thoughts? I say, I know it's a player we don't. It's hard. We're trying to do as much research as we can later on here, but. Now, one thing these guys did also say, Baz, this Beeben Ballers, they mentioned the way that you have to do your national service in South Korea, and they have said, look, that's something he is going to have to do. There's a Asian Games I think this year. He hasn't been included in the squad, so he won't be able to do that. The next two chances for him is 2028 and Las Vegas, I think, and then 2030 Asian Games again. And that'll be his chances to try and win a trophy, but if not, or a medal. But if not, he will have to go. But they did say that some of the Rangers fans said, but if we sell him at 24, 25, if he does well, but they were saying, look, the only problem is then the next club is banned and won't want to pay big money because. So it's a weird one. I don't think we've ever been in this situation before, Baz. But it says 20. We've got a few years to worry about that. But first and foremost, I don't know if you watch YouTube or anything. Are you excited about this guy coming in?
I tend not to watch YouTube. I've done that before, and I've been sold down the river. Many a player because they show highlights of about 3 or 4 good moves, and so you get sort of YouTube's not. It gives you an indication maybe of slightly how the player likes to play, or maybe he likes to position himself around the pitch and stuff. But I don't tend to get too wrapped in that. My days of doing that are long gone because I've been burnt before by watching crap like that, and then the player's nothing like what you expect. Again, up on that guy you're talking about on the he posts regularly on the X. So I follow him. He's been following us. So I've been sort of keeping up to date to what he's been saying. He's been very positive. There's certainly excitement for this young lad, and like a lot of the fans are saying he's a project player. It's a lot of money, but if you go into the markets these days, money is the root to all evil in football at the minute. Some of the fees nowadays are absolutely bonkers. They are they are crazy money. So if you're going to the likes of the Premier League, etc., that sort of money we're spending is nothing. Yes, in Rangers it's huge money. Yes, in Scotland it's huge money, but you can see a lot of teams around Europe now are starting to spend a lot of money, and all we can do is go by what where we're trying to research, going by the guys in the know, like those guys in X, and taking a further word that this is a promising player and that Rangers are hopefully going to sign a gem. That's what happens. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of players look good in Europe, but Scottish football is a different pedigree. Like, you need to roll your sleeves up and you need to get stuck in Scotland. And, not every player, even bigger names we have had in the past, haven't been able to achieve that at Rangers because they haven't been able to put the work ethic in. And, so, like, we've been linked with about maybe 20 wingers all summer, and maybe this guy will be the pick of the bunch. Yokoro has come in, done really well. He looks like a brilliant wee player. And the other thing is, too, we have been saying for years, why have we not went into the Asian market? There's a market that you can go in, get players on relatively cheap transfer fees, and generally the wages are able to be compatible. So let's give the young fella a chance. I'll not say too much until he gets a scarf above his head, because we've seen all this crap before. We've seen guys in the stand ready to say in the next day, and that didn't happen. So, let's hope Rangers get it over the line and we can embrace the young man and maybe, see the potential that these fellas are saying and raving all about him.
Yourself then, Marcus, what's your thoughts on any of the? I don't know if you've done some research or not. I know it is hard to do because there's that many links, etc. But as I say, the only good thing is from the guys. As I say, these guys just watch the South Korean players. That's what their podcast is all about. Obviously, and Baz says they're on the X and stuff, and they do know about some of the South Korean players that have came to the other side of the city. So they do know the Scottish division. They know what it's all about. And I suppose them saying that the fact that they think Kim Min-soo could probably go a wee bit further than them in the Scottish League is because he does have that physicality that the other players maybe lacked, which they know that you need in Scotland. So hopefully, if he does come at us, we've got a good player coming.
I think I did a little bit of research, not so much on the technical thing, and I've sort of turned this whole thing on his head because he is South Korean and he's 20 and he moved to Spain when he was 10. So his actual football education has been solely in Spain, and that's not a bad old place, is it? So it's great that he's South Korean, and obviously there's going to be an affinity there. And as Gary said on one of his comments there, that could well be a spin off with regard to merchandise as it was with Son at Tottenham. But I just sort of tend to think of that. He was a young guy getting into football and with a couple of decent Spanish teams. So that could all go well, and let's just hope that it's that comes to fruition. And I think he's sort of elevated from like 4 million up to the 8.5 because I think Girona were quite disappointed to let him go, and I think that proves that he has actually got a lot of potential. Obviously, time will tell, but if it does come off, then let's hope that he makes an impact like Yokota has. Um, it's going to take a bit of time, but the guy's got to be given a chance. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as I say, well, I wanted to give everyone their saying that because I know a lot of people's talking about it, obviously. It seems to be is coming, but as Baz has alluded to earlier, nothing's done until it's done. So we'll wait and see on that one. Another winger then, Scotty, is Cozier Dewberry. One would probably know a wee bit more about, obviously, because he played down in England. Derek Clark from the Rangers Review seems to think he's a really good player. Obviously, him doing the commentating down there, so he got a close eye. And for a Rangers point of view to watch him, very excited about him. Bolton, a lot of Bolton fans are still hoping they can get him back on loan again. Obviously, with Brighton, we know who their owner is. Is he going to want to sell? Are they going to want to sell the Rangers? I think we've already had a £7.5 million bid rejected. But the talks is from all the ones in the know is that we're still in contact. So it must mean there's still a chance. What's your thoughts on this one, Scott? Do you think even if we got the Asian guy in the South Korean in, we should still need to go for another winger? Would you like to have the two wingers in?
I think if you have maybe 2 wingers, 4 wingers in your squad, then 2 more wingers, sorry, to make it 4. I think that helps you because it means if one starts and you get tired after, say, 50, 60 minutes, you can bring somebody else on when other teams start to get tired as well. And you can, football's not about 11 anymore, it's about a full squad, isn't it? About chopping and changing at times, playing different players in different games. That's the way a lot of teams go, and we have to do the same. So the boy Dewberry at Brighton, I don't think, to be honest with you, it's really to do with Tony Bloom. I think he will sell. But Brighton's like that with every club. You see Liverpool try to get one of their players and they're not backing off it because they want more. So they don't tell you what the valuation of the player is, but they know themselves. You come with a bid, and then they say, no, this we want this, we want this. And I think they're doing it with Dubry as well. I think if we offer enough, we'll get him. I think if he comes in, what I've seen at Bolton, he looked very promising. He was quick, he was creative, he created a lot of chances, he scored a few goals. People say, well, that's only in League One, and that is correct, but if he's good enough, he's going to come up here and do it as well. If he's not, then he'll struggle. But if we can get him in, I'd be happy with that. If we don't, then we have to move on to someone else. I do think William, we are looking for another players for other positions as well. I still feel we need maybe another midfielder. It's different from what we have, and another centre back for me. I feel we're short in that area.
Like the what Chris from Bolton Blue says, we'll know what we've got when we've seen play. Yeah, well, I would say 5 or 10 minutes. We'll make our assumptions as we do at Rangers. Baz, yourself on Dewberry then, or just quickly, sorry, John from the Isle of Skye. Good, John. Thank you very much for coming on. I don't think we've had anyone from the Isle of Skye just yet ever posting up saying they're here. We've got people from Benidorm and Texas and all around the world, but Isle of Skye. So it's good to have you, mate. And thank you for joining us. So, Baz, yep. What's your thoughts on Cozier Dewberry, mate? Do you know much about him?
He's just another light player that we've had over the summer. I don't really know an awful lot about him. Scott's alluded most of it about Bolton and stuff. Like sometimes you hit it on the money with these players and they come up and it pays off. Sometimes they don't. He may be here, he may not be here, but we definitely do need at least an or two wingers. It's quite clear with Yokoro at the minute that 45 minutes is his limit. So that is a slight concern for me in terms of second half of games. So you are going to need other wingers to fill the void. And at this minute in time, I don't believe we'll have enough. I mean, when you look at Gassama, yes, he's been playing pretty well the last 2 or 3 games, but we've also seen in previous with Gassama that he can come off the ball a wee bit. Yes, wingers do that. We all know that. But you need players when on the bench or able to come into the side when players like Gassama aren't on form, because it will happen. I really haven't a lot to say on Dewberry. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of money for a player that's played in League One. So again, it's another gamble. But as I say, every player that you bring up is a gamble. We've had players like Aaron Ramsey coming from Juventus who wouldn't be in the best taste of Rangers' mouths. When you mention his name, and that was a so-called top-level European pedigree player. So, and as I alluded to at the start of the show, it's about players that want to come, have the will, have the work ethic. To play in Scotland, you have to have that extra gear, that chasing your man down, getting dirty, getting into the tackles, being able to ride tackles. So another player, William, that I would allude to that again, if he does come, it's the proof's in the pudding. We'll see if he comes and if he gets the game time, what he's all about. That's like any club signing any player. That's the only time you really see them. I have to say now, my own personal opinion, I'm certainly more excited with the South Korean than I am with Dewberry, and it's just a personal opinion. It's just a feeling I have. I think the latter for me is the player I'd love to see Rangers get over the line over Dewberry. But as I say, it's a personal opinion.
Yeah. Okay. There's also, as Sean has put in there here, rumors of Daniel Carlsbach. He is quite a good player. I think looking at stats, or scored 24 goals out of the last 45 matches or 45 games in the Norwegian League. Has been right through the Norwegian international, right through up to under 21. So played for Viking FK and Heerenveen and stuff. So he's been in some decent clubs and young. So that could be the one that they were talking about today. There's another one we don't know the name of yet. But we'll wait and see on that one. Yourself then, Marcus, you've said from the start that Tony Bloom will not deal with Rangers. I think some people in the comments are probably right. We'll probably have to pay a wee bit over the odds. But at the end of the day, as Scott said as well, it's all right saying he's the owner, Tony Bloom won't do this. But at the end of the day, football's all about the money and selling at the right time. And, if Rangers hit whatever the evaluation is, you would like to think you can get that deal over the line. But you think maybe not, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, if agreement is done, it's certainly going to be at a premium. There's no question about that. I don't mind. I mean, I'm not particularly enthused about it. I did see quite a few EFL games last year and saw him play, and he's a decent player. And as Baz and Scott have alluded to there, it's difficult to judge, but I think I agree. I think the South Korean guy is probably the more interesting prospect. Going on to what Shona's point was, interesting with Cole's back, 6'5". So the profile of our players, if you saw them running out on the field at the moment, it's almost a criteria. If you're under 6 foot, you haven't got a chance. So quite physical. So I wonder if Bjornaby has been involved with his contacts there potentially to fill in that void of a forward. So it'll be interesting to see, as Shona said there, whether that actually bears any fruition over the next 10 days or so.
Yep, it'll be interesting to say. Yeah, just looking at stats and stuff there, looks like a good player. So hopefully. But another one is Kevin Kelsey. He's a 6'4", going to your trend there, Marcus, of the tall guys. He's a 6'4", 22 years old, playing for Portland Timbers. The reports on him is £7.4 million bid has been rejected, but again, saying that they're still in talk. So look, Scott, at the end of the day, mate, it is although it's a guessing game for us because it's hard to go through all these players, but and say he's going to be good or he's not. You can do as much research as you can. But I think one thing it does allude to, Scott, is Rangers see that there's an issue in the forward line and they're trying their best to sort it out. Is that fair to say that?
I think it is, yeah. I know Derek started with like two up top when he came when he came in, and that's not really worked for us. I think we're better with 4-3-3. I think we're better with 1 through the middle, and Shankland can't do that. Obviously, he can't really play that himself. Miloski, I don't think can play that himself, and I don't think he's flavour of the month anyway. And I think Nadiri's doing his best. Listen, he scored 2 goals in 2 games. He can't really ask for any more, but I think we need somebody else, obviously due to Schmidt's injury. And Kelsey has been linked. I don't know if that will happen. There's been rumours. Sean just mentioned the issue here that's not. I've heard it's not. I've also heard it is. So depends who you speak to. They tell you different things. So don't take any as gospel until Baz alluded to earlier. You see the scarf above the head or sitting in the
Yeah.
big Rangers flag that they've been doing recently. So I think we will be looking at fairy strikers. I think we will be busy right up to the window. I think we will bring in another few, and it could be like 15 signings this summer, which is a lot of footballers coming to the one club in the one summer to try and get a team clicking straight away. Doesn't matter how
Yeah.
you look at it. You can sit and say, "Oh, they were shite. I'm not getting back," or sell a lot of them or whatever. But if you're bringing in 15 guys in the one summer, it doesn't matter who you are, unless you've got a core of players that are going to build them around, which we don't. It can take time, I'm afraid.
The fair point there from Scott, isn't it, Baz? Like, we haven't got we can't build around a squad because we're building everything at one go. Literally, we're building a squad. And I know I don't like keep going on about them across the city, but them and other clubs, they've always got certain players in certain positions that is going to play for them, but you can add the sprinkle of talent here and there in that area. However, Rangers need to just completely start again, and that's what we are doing. We're hoping we're going to get it right. Now, I would say most of the 11 players we've already got in now are our squad players, and maybe the big money now in these next 2-3 signings, Baz, will be the sprinkle of the quality that sort of hopefully helps that team, push on.
Well, this is it. I mean, in years gone by, you would have built a team round Barry Ferguson. You'd have built a team round Stephen Davis. And Rangers haven't had that luxury. It's the same as across the city. To build a team round McGregor, and Rangers need to identify that key component of building a team around, permanent players, because it's like Roskin at the minute. Is he staying? Is he not? Nobody actually knows. Everybody was absolutely. As soon as the World Cup's over, Roskin's gone. It didn't happen, and it still may not happen. And this is the problem. There's still players at the club who we have no idea come the end of the window if they're going to be there. We know there's surplus, some of them, but they could still be at the club. And Rangers can only bring so many in. You can't have a squad ending up with 30 plus players. That's just not the way any football club should work. So for me, we need to, as especially as the fans, we need to start taking a step back and letting this team build and letting this team get to the point where it can actually sustain and challenge for titles. The biggest problem is when I said this earlier on, the club has been starved from so much success. The fans are literally on tenterhooks every time there's a season, every time there's a window. Just get the players in. We need to win the league, and it hasn't worked. This model hasn't worked for years. The only time it worked was when Gerrard built a team for 3 seasons. They eventually won a title, and ever since that, we've chopped and changed. We've rotated the squad bar a couple of players that's been mainstays, like Tavernier, etc., who's stayed for multiple years. How many times has there been a rotation door of players signed and put out the door within 18 months? Far, far too many, even less than 18 months. So the likes, Shona's put up the likes of Dragovic. There's a player there. There's a player that you can hopefully build a team around, but he's just not quite ready yet to be that mainstay player because he's only been through the door. He's only played a few games. So this rebuild is going to take time, and as much as it pains me to say it, and I hate it, Rangers need the time. We have to get behind the team. We can't abuse every player that comes through the door. That's rubbish. They're no good. We're spending too much. We have to, at some point, accept the process and hope to God this actually starts to get right. Because if we don't, we're going to have year after year after year of the same nonsense, demanding managers sacked, demanding every player gets put back out the door. And that's just my opinion. We have to start somewhere. And I think with Derek McInnes and some of the players he's brought in, I actually think we can do that.
No, I agree with you. Everything you're saying there, that's my thoughts on it. We like I think Chrissy says there we've had like 60 players brought in last 5 seasons. If you look at it all, then I think it's like 120 players. I could be wrong, but it is that sort of crazy number in the last, but ins and outs, unsustainable. It doesn't work. It can't work. Rangers will only get better, Marcus, is if we give someone a chance to build a squad and it might be a season of pain again. And I know we hate saying that, but as long as you're seeing some shoots of, you know, the team go in the right direction, but you can't after 4 or 5 games say, this isn't going to work, rip it all up, get somebody else in, he's useless. And then what happens? You get someone else in and he'll say, oh, well, I don't like him, he'll never fit my style of play. And then you're back here next season. Does anyone want to go through that nonsense again? We're just like Steven Gerrard. I know everyone's saying the Messiah. He was given 3 years to build that squad. There was a lot of results that didn't go our way through those 3 years. We went out of cup competitions, etc. But at the end of the day, we took medicine and we eventually came through the other end, got ourselves a title. So we're going to have to just eventually accept, that we're going to have to give someone time. And I know we don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. I don't want to wait any longer. For me, Rangers has ruined the whole 20s and they're now ruining my 30s. So, my patience is running as thin as anyone. But I keep thinking to myself, is 2 years of pain or whatever better than fucking 6 years down the line again, another 5 different managers, and so at some stage we're going to have to back someone, Marcus. And even when the going gets tough, but allowing the players to gel and sticking with them. I know that's easier said than done.
I agree. I think a lot of it does stem from the manager, and it's a bit turbulent at the moment. But we've just got to stick with it, as you say. Otherwise, the whole thing's um, just going to go from bad to worse. I mean, just quickly looking at this, we don't have to go into the nth degree. This includes Costa, signed last week. We've in effect got 30 players on the books now. Cifuentes understandably is injured, and it's quite obvious the likes of Suter will leave, but they're technically on our books at the moment. So hopefully we can offload some players, and after the 3rd of September, that squad will be hopefully a lot skinnier in terms of offloading some players, but also, as Scott alluded to earlier about certain positions, it's clear probably on the wing, another striker, and certainly centre back. I think we're woefully thin that we can add to it, but also extract some players. And as you said, William, I think the fact is that it's in effect mainly, not exclusively, Derek McInnes's players, and you just got to work with them. Some will be better than others, and there will be a bit of pain. But the fact is, next season to bring in double figures again is just unacceptable. So I think we've got to show a degree of patience, however painful it is, and we'll look at the loan situation maybe a little bit later on in the podcast. and hopefully those players can come into the reckoning maybe in two years or so. But you can see there that it's a lot of that is exactly what you guys have said has been those players. A lot of them have been historic over the last 2 or 3 years with different managers, and hopefully it can look a bit skinnier and a bit more stronger with a bit of quality by the end of the transfer window.
Yep. No, well, if you look at it's that crazy if you look at it, Scotty. Cifuentes would probably be one of our older players because he's the one that's been there probably longer than near enough 99% of that squad. And Cortez is another one because they, and the rest of them are, a lot of them are only through the door last season or so. But Shona says here, you have to question McInnes on his tactics and subs. He needs to stick with something and go with it because if he tries to accommodate Shankin in 4-4-2, we will win nothing. And to be first, Scott, I think me and you, I've been on your pod a few times as well on the Friday nights, which is always great crack. And we were honest and we said that ourselves that it doesn't look like a McInnes team, especially at the start. We weren't defending like a McInnes team, we weren't building like a McInnes team, we weren't putting the effort in like a McInnes team. I think we sort of agreed that maybe he was overthinking things. Maybe now he's settled himself a bit. He's found this 4-3-3. It seems to be working so far. We've got 2 wins out of it. It was a good performance against St. Mirren, not so much against at the home game, albeit if Devon hadn't got sent off, we maybe could have won that 2 or 3 because I thought we were really starting to pin them back at that stage. But I think now, to be fair to him, mate, it seems to be he's calmed himself a bit. Hopefully, should I say? And the weird subs, etc. And he's learned from his mistakes.
Hopefully, I think Derek will be fine. I think he will learn from mistakes. I think I said it to you. You said it as well. I think his heart was maybe real when he said it at times. I think he was trying to do stuff maybe he wouldn't have done elsewhere as a manager because it's Rangers. Because he's a fan. He's been a player. He knows what the club means to him, his family, and the supporters. I think he just has to stick to what he knows and what he's good at. And I think he done that in the last couple of games. Going to a 4-3-3, I think he knows a 4-4-2 isn't working. Listen, Shanklin will score goals for us. Shanklin will play part in some games. He won't play part in other games. He'll have to recognise that himself. I think the signing, we signed Shanklin before we signed Derek, so Shanklin came in well before that. So I think Lawrence knows himself. He's not going to play every week, but when he gets a chance, I think he will score goals. But I think he has to stick to the 4-3-3. I think that's where we play our best stuff, and I think it will come good, but we can't just rip it up and start again. Derek knows himself, William, if he doesn't produce the goods come the end of the season, he's probably out of a job. Do you know that way? If things turn and we finish third or whatever and the fans are on his case, he probably knows that. He will be out the door, but we just can't keep ripping things up. I know I've said before you can't keep managers that aren't performing, but you can't keep sacking managers like that. That's a very, very thin line. And if you do that, we go back to where we are just now, and I don't want that. But obviously, if Derek doesn't perform well or get results, you know he's out the door and we're back to the same position. So it's one of the things we just hope and pray he gets it right, and so they see. But no everything's in him. Something on the players as well. But in the day, he has to take the buck for it because he's a manager.
Yep, no, 100%. I agree with a lot of that, Baz. I don't. There's this, and I get what Scott's saying. They're just overthinking things, being a fan of the club, and this is the job he's always wanted, and it's easy to do that. But I think we've seen in the last couple of games, it's been a bit more right, calm it down, and been like, right, you if you're overthinking things, you can make silly mistakes, and I think that's what was happening over, the game in Europe against the Pony side when we were doing so well in the first half, and then the panic. It was just a changes for change's sake, Baz. And all right, it took him a few bites to learn the lesson, but it seems he's done that. And then as well though, Baz, I do feel for him as well because as well as he's coming in this job he's always wanted. It's hard to find your best squad when you know the players that you have at the minute aren't even the ones the finished article because you are needing that more quality as well. And but I think what he has the minute he's settled with, and probably taking Schenken out of the team, Baz, is a hard one for him with them two being so close and what he done for him last season. But look, he's to be fair to him, he's stuck with Adiri, and I know not everyone thinks he's the finished product. But if you're playing one up front, you're looking someone to do all that donkey work and heavy lifting. Adiri at the minute is the player to do that. So I think that he McInnes is now starting to make those tough decisions because he knows he's under a bit of pressure early, and he needs to just get things right as best as he can.
Like, let's be honest, this was the golden ticket into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for McInnes. This is huge. This isn't Aberdeen. This is not Bristol City. This is not Kilmarnock, etc. Rangers are an institution. Managing Rangers is like no other. Previous managers have seen this in the past. Good names have came to Ibrox and left with their arse kicked out the door. So Derek's under no illusion that this job is absolutely massive. And what I would say is, I do see what Scott was saying. I think Derek's judgment has been clouded at the start of the season. I think that Derek has tried to get something going straight away to try and get wins, and I think Derek has put his own tactics out the window. That's what I think at the start. But what all good managers do is they evolve the mistakes, and Derek has done that quickly. Derek has understood that what he tried at the start hasn't worked. And a lot of managers that we have had in the past try to stick to the same thing and hope it works, and hope it works, and hope it works. Derek has made instant quick changes to the team, is now stopped near taking half the team off at half time and trying to hope things will change. He's starting to tactically get to where Rangers should be, and the 4-3-3 is perfect for Rangers at the minute. With the players that he's got and the potential that certain players have and where their best positions are, Rangers look a better outfit at the 4-3-3. And that means, William, if Shankland needs to sit on the bench, that's what has to happen, regardless of being captain or whatever. That makes no difference. Derek McInnes is understanding. Shankland isn't the golden piece of Rangers. Each player has their own suitor to what they're going to do. And at this minute in time, Shankland doesn't fit into that particular style that he's trying to play. Nadiri is the one, because Shermitty's injured, has had to step up to the mark, and Derek has seen that, and he's trusted Nadiri, and Nadiri in the last two games has delivered for him. So he's made a couple of decisions that have worked. It was like Raskin. Everybody's, no, don't play Raskin. Raskin shouldn't come into the team. He brought Raskin straight in because he wants this team to win. What's my best 11 and how can I go and get victory? I think at the start of the season, his judgment was slightly clouded. I think right now, Derek's starting to find a wee bit of rhythm that the players that he has, how can I get the best out of him? How's my best 11? And I think it's starting to work. I'm not saying we're playing fantastic, but we're getting wins. They might be narrow, but we're winning. The European game was a narrow win, but we got over the line, especially even down to 10 men. The Cimarron game, obviously, there was a lot more goals there. Our team played well. But again, there's a huge game coming up this weekend after Europe, and they're the sort of games that Derek needs to really look at his squad and say, how can I get a team to go to Pataudry, grind out a good result? So I've got a bit of faith in Derek. The fact that he's been able to turn it around from the start of the season and get a better system and a better will to win play, I honestly do. I think Derek will do okay.
Yeah, let's hope so, mate. Yeah. So yourself then, Marcus. I know obviously you've made a few comments as well, buddy, about the likes of Dan Neil coming off when he shouldn't have, etc. And this is when probably he was overthinking things. The players were getting thrown under the bus, is a word some have said, but I don't think he's probably meant to do that. It's just been the whole panic of, as you say, giving someone the armband and taking him on 45 minutes against the fans and then on that certain player. But I think it's sort of calmed down a wee bit more since then. The last couple of games, we've seen not as many erratic substitutions.
Yeah, I think he's last couple of games he's only made one change, so I think that 4-3-3 or hybrid of it is definitely what he's intended to do. So I agree. I think he knows at the moment what his best team is. I just want to bring something up. It's something that I put on our chat about a week ago, and I want to highlight what Shona's said, that I'm involved in coach development across the various sports, and I feel quite strongly about it that clearly we're quite enthused about getting players in. Absolutely, we need better players and we need to release players. But good coaching is about improving your players. And it's not a natural science. Some players will improve more than others. But the fact is, I think we've got some decent players there. And the coaching team, not just the manager, have really got to roll their sleeves up. And I remember, I went to Chelsea. It must have been nearly 20 odd years ago. One of my friends was a season ticket there. His with his friend couldn't go, so I went 6 or 7 times. Now they had an unbelievable team, but one thing I noticed, and I said it to Scott, my friend, was at the end of the season, even so-called players like Joe Cole and Frank Lampard, who were meant to be, good players, which they were, but they'd improved so much, and it was down to the coaching. So again, it takes time. Different players improve at different times, but I really think that aside from the ins and outs, that the coaching has really they've really got to roll their sleeves up, those guys, and along with the players, it's obviously a joint conglomeration between the staff and the players. But let's just hope, because there's some decent players there, and we just need to accelerate their development as soon as possible.
Yep, 100%, mate. I agree with that. Just quickly, Gio says, question. We're up in front of the we're up the SFA. Any news yet, guys? No, no news yet. I think that is tomorrow. I think someone else wrote in the comments that may be coming through tomorrow. Another weird one, Scott. I think we get missed the Falkirk game. There's 3 games that get missed. I think them lot and the club is another one. I think that's actually the last game that he would miss. So it wouldn't surprise me if that did come up, but it's a bit of a nonsense, isn't it? Really, for telling the truth.
You can't tell the truth to the SFA nowadays. It's not just Derek it's happened to. Look at look at Michael Stewart. Michael Stewart's not a friend, but he told the truth about VAR and the SFA, and he get banned for Hampden and all that. Do you know what I mean? So they don't like the truth. So the retort is aggression, or they come out and say ban you and stuff like that. They don't want to listen to you. Don't want to chat about it. They just go defensive straight away when anybody criticises them.
Yep, as they do indeed, mate. Baz, I don't know if you've any thoughts on that. I suppose we won't know until we hear what's going to happen. But let's be honest, I would say we probably can guess what that is going to be. But what did he say? They called it the disgusting or something. I think we all agreed that was a laughing stock of the world football. That decision at the time, but it's sort of one of those things. You can't say anything to the SFA at all, or else they punish you for it. They don't like criticism whatsoever, even though everyone can see that they're getting it wrong in so many avenues. Michael Stewart, one that is we're definitely not a fan of here, but he's another one. Dared to say something about them, and the next minute he's in the car park on the Scottish Cup final because they won't let him through the door. So I think that tells you everything about Scottish football, Baz, and how it's being run.
Like if Michael Stewart's calling out against him, especially back in Rangers up and things, then you're serious problems. Let's be honest, like because he's not very best towards Rangers. Let's be honest, he'll kick us when we're down all the time. So the problem is it's a lot of these decisions, or the problem is when you come out and say something, there's so much done about it. But they won't look internally to the poor decisions they're making on a weekly basis and look at themselves. And it's a blame game. It's blame something else. And it's like Derek McInnes. The whole news will be if Derek gets a 3-match ban, it's all about what Derek said. It's not about how poor the officiating's been, not how poor, how VAR can, get themselves involved in certain things that's nothing to do with them in the interim. Referees are absolutely bog rotten. So, what needs to happen is the other clubs in the SPL need to get together and they just need to say to them, look, this is not right. We want a complete reset because there's far too much biasness in it. There's certain decisions. We've seen it last season, with some of the games, the Motherwell games, etc. I mean, they were so poor. Even it actually drew the attention of broadcasters outside of Scotland, and they're sitting laughing and actually making a mockery of Scottish football that there's so much poor officiating. And look at the World Cup. How many SFA officials went to the World Cup? And there's a reason why none of them went, because they're not at any decent level. And I'm not saying refereeing. There is a problem with refereeing and stuff throughout Europe. We know that. You see it in the Premier League. You see it in other leagues. But the Scottish football at the minute is at a rank low. And the likes of Willie Collum needs to be gone. That guy is an absolute monster here. Every time I see him, I feel like throwing up because he's just got that sort of look about him. You know, that's the truth, but it's the truth. But he's not good at what he does. I mean, look at the decision the other day. He couldn't wait to come out and back a decision for them. But yet there's something to do with Rangers. Let's take a week or two at it. Let's take a week or two at it and see what we can come up with to get against Rangers. It's corrupt. I'm actually fed up talking about it, to be honest.
There you go, Baz, about to crack up all. Well, no, it is annoying, Marcus, isn't it, mate? But we've seen, like, then again, only Scottish football would the referees be sponsored by Specsavers, for fuck's sake, like the biggest open goal ever for slagging, like, but that's just what that's just what they do in Scottish football. As much as we love it, because that's where Rangers play, but we do see it week in week out, don't we? And it started off that way as well. Like, and look, we're honest here. When Rangers are poor, and they have been poor for quite some time, and but it still isn't right though when certain decisions are baffling decisions. Even like the Raskin goal, remember when it rolled up on the inside of the net? Like, how long ago was that one? And that and then Hibs went up the pitch. I think it was Hibs were playing that day, wasn't it? And went up and scored, and they were given the goal. So it just shows you the laughing stock of Scottish football for such a long time, Marcus. But it is frustrating, isn't it? We're talking about this, and only a few weeks in, and we're talking about it as well. But I think hopefully, if everyone had their put their big boy pants on, they'd say, look, the McInnes thing, they'd say, look, it is what it is. It was a high pressure thing, and end it now, end the fiasco now. But I would say it wouldn't surprise me if we see the 3-game ban, and obviously that'll be wildfire again for the Rangers fans.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's inevitable that they're not going to step back, and I think we've just got to suck it up. Hopefully, Jim Gillespie will get involved as well, but I can't see that being overturned. But no, it is farcical. It's almost as if that particular instance was last season with Hearts, and it's almost like the SFA couldn't burst the Rangers' balloon quick enough once he'd been appointed, and sure enough, it looks as though it's going to affect it. But I really commend Baz on his rhetoric there, because I think he's put it a lot better than I could. And yeah, it does get really boring, and it almost comes to a stage now similar to the St Mirren game, the cup game, that we've almost just got to be so good that we can just eradicate any decisions against us and just be too good and win. So let's hopefully we can get as good as possible. But there is a point there that other teams, and there was some evidence with Motherwell and Hearts last season getting involved, getting frustrated. But obviously the season's finished. Whether there'll be a threat again, I don't know. But I just hope that momentum's not lost.
Well, look, we'll go in. Start with the low. They were talking about the loan signings, Marcus. If you want to get that up, you can chat to us about that, and then we'll go to Scotty and stuff. But I think looking at that lately with like Paul Enzio, I think he's been doing really good at St. Mirren. I watched him at the start of the season. Looked like cracking. We pair obviously couldn't play against us because he'd be tied up because he's we're the parent club load about, so we didn't get to see him playing against us. But hopefully he'll hurt a few other teams as the season goes on, like Sakai Glasgow, etc. Marcus. So a lot of promising young players doing well in the Scotland, both the Premiership and the lower divisions in Scotland.
Yeah, I'll go through it briefly. So I think what's exciting, and David Miller made a really good point, the frustration of the lack of Scottish players in Rangers. And clearly it's going to take a little bit of time, but hopefully we can see the benefits. As you've referred to there, William, in general, Nisio and Rice, they weren't featuring last weekend, but the general feedback has been really positive, and hopefully they can have the same effect similar to Finley Curtis last season. So they're the Premier in the SPL, and then the Championship. It's good that we've sort of got a graduation of players here: McCallion, Stewart, and Zebedee Lawson for Queens Park, and then Wraith, Callum Addison in the Championship. So Queens Park lost 2-0. Surprisingly, they've lost all three games. They're actually bottom. So McCallion started, Stewart came on. This is last weekend. Zebedee Lawson was an unused sub. And then for Wraith Rovers, they beat Ayr United, which is a good result. I was really impressed with Ayr United against Kilmarnock in that cup game. But Wraith Rovers won 2-0. Adamson started, which Callum Addison started, which was great. I think the one, and you highlighted it on your video this morning with regard to Alloa. they've had a really good start to the season. They beat Queen of the South 2-0, and Carl Glasgow scored and also got an assist there. So he's clearly making a really good impression now. Max Cameron, the fellow forward, he came on as a sub. He has got quite a few games as well. So those two seem to be doing well. Something I put on the chat that I think there's been a bit of confusion because there is an L Rankin playing for Alloa. That's Luke Rankin, a 21-year-old, as opposed to Luca Rankin, our 16-year-old in the academy. But those two guys have done really well for Alloa. Then we come down to East Kilbride. Um, they uh, they were beaten 3-0 by Montrose. Alex Smith was an unused sub. It sounds as if by the result they could have done with him. And then you'll be really pleased, guys. The Ulsterman Callum Burnside is with Airdrie, and they lost 3-1, but Callum Burnside did play the whole game. So the net result is it's quite good it's normally on a Saturday night to go through these 10 players, and Cormac Christie, an 18-year-old, was actually put on loan today or last couple of days to Brecon City in the Lowland League. So there's actually 11 players. So it's good that with whether it's a cooperative loan or a set loan, that some of these players are getting meaningful football. And I'll just conclude by saying I really hope that some of these players, particularly in the first instance, Nisio and Rice, at the end of the season, they're going to give the manager and the recruitment team not so much a headache, but say, right, we need to give you a contract. And it's good as well that some of the younger players are getting meaningful football. And let's just hope that they're a real integral part of the Rangers setup in the near future, because the youth development has been really quite appalling.
Agree with that. I said, and also what Shona says here, and I 100% agree with. I was watching, as I say, the first game St. Mirren were playing away to Falkirk, and he was the only player that actually he controlled the ball and he was always in the middle of that park driving St. Mirren forward, getting the passes, and I was sitting there, Scott, and like I was like, I understand sending these guys out and don't getting them playing games. I get that 100%. But when your midfielder, they're all the same sort of players, and you have one who is different, who is can travel with the ball and create a challenge, basically. Also keep running and then pass the ball forward, which is something we struggle with in midfield. And I was sort of thinking, flip me, I wish we'd had a hanged on to him, because he is a sort of player that we don't have. But in the main, Scott, at least these guys are actually getting proper first team football in both the Premier League and down the Championship, League One, etc. They seem to be doing quite well, most of them.
Yeah, they are, and Paul Ensor's, he is a good footballer, and I think he will do play really well with St. Mirren. I think he'll get a lot of game time there. My next door neighbour's a St. Mirren fan. He said he has been playing well since he's joined, and a lot of fans are actually liking what he's offering them. So that's good to see. Kyle Glasgow, we all know he's got tremendous ability and talent, and he's still a young kid. So I think a lot of game time this season with Alloa, and then maybe move up a different level next season, as in maybe somewhere else to loan or hanging about the first team. But it's difficult, it's a high jump, you know yourself. If you come into the first team and they don't play well, because you still hear it with Finlay, oh, he should be back out on again. The young lads don't get the time. They don't. It's so difficult to be a young player. So much pressure on them when they hit that first team and they play a poor 30 minutes, and it's like, I told you should be back out on loan. And I think Finlay Curtis is good enough to be in the first team, to be honest with you. But no, it's good to see Paul Ensor playing well, and hopefully he comes back and we maybe use him, and same with Kyle Glasgow. The rest of the boys, I don't know if some of them will end up being out of a contract and leaving, but Callum Burnside, I quite like him, and I like Zebedee Lawson, even though he's not really played a lot. So it's up to the kids when they're out, how much they play and how much they progress at other clubs. There's no point going in on somewhere and you're sitting on the bench, so they have to get game time, but we'll see how they go this season.
No, what's your thoughts then, Baz? I know it's hard to look at the kids. Marcus does a great job of keeping eyes as much as he can. I try to watch as much of them as I can as well. There's only so much football you can watch, but it, any of the ones I have seen seem to be playing well, and they're most of them are playing and starting for these teams, etc. And that's going to only be good for us, can't it?
Well, this is it. As long as the development of the clubs that they go to actually do what they suggest they're going to do, and the young lads actually take the opportunity to fulfil what potential that they have. They're at Rangers for a reason at the start because there's potential. All young players. That's why they're at any big clubs because the scouts and the etc. know and they see these guys have something in them. So the likes of Kyle Glasgow, who's certainly hitting the headlines pretty much every time he's playing. That's a very, very highly rated player at Rangers. One for the future, as they say, and he's one of those players who wants to strive to be the best player in the pitch, and you can see with his performances and the goals that he's getting, he's fitting in beautifully there. I would actually suggest that Alloa, no disrespect to them, are probably a bit lower than his level. And Scott says next season, very bare minimum playing for one of the top championship sides. I think that's the sort of level that young fella, I think he can produce quickly. I think he's got those talents. NCO's another one. NCO's 20, so he's the older one. And although that sounds, 20 sounds young in football terms now, 20 isn't actually as young as it used to be. So I would like to see NCO in the Rangers squad certainly next season. I don't think we're going to learn a lot more with NCO going anywhere else but Rangers from next season. Certainly likes like Glasgow, Burnside, and all, maybe another season somewhere if things progress the way they're going. But it's about time Rangers actually identified and got the potential out of these young players. And we've talked about this before in shows, how many young players have just hung around Ibrox for years, haven't got the proper development, and end up in the oblivion far too many times. This time, I think Rangers are starting to get it right. The only problem that I have is that it's great seeing these young players being out on loan. They're playing well. They're certainly getting a great fan base with these other clubs, and the potential is there to be in the first team in the next year to 2 years, maybe 3 years. It's the only issue I've got is the first team has been so poor. It's been very hard to get when the top team isn't playing well and they haven't been doing well. It's very hard to get these youngsters into the team because you're constantly evolving of changing players and trying to reset the squad. So there hasn't been that time to blood in one or two into a winning side and allow them to enjoy that side of it. So hopefully in the next 2 seasons, if these guys do what they're doing, Rangers do what they should be doing at the top table, that the two will combine at the one time. And for me, in 2 seasons' times, fingers crossed, Rangers could really, really be where they really should be.
I've seen a lot of people in the comments as well say about Enzo, he needs to sign a contract, etc. But this is the problem too. You're trying to get these young fellas to sign a contract, and then they're seeing themselves as the only midfielder that can travel with a ball. But then the next minute they don't get a chance; they're getting loaned out. So, it's the frustration there for some of these young ones as well. But I don't want to see what we've seen in time. How many times have we seen players that say staying at Rangers till they're 22 and 23, etc., and still loading them out like so your Kings, etc., and all these young fellas, and you're sort of going, fuck me, if you haven't made it, but if you aren't looking at that team about your age 20, in my opinion, 19, 20, if you can't be like, whoa, he's a good player, he can get in there, then it's a waste of time from that age. But we've got a weird thing in Scotland of oh, they're too young. They're still young. We think of players even at 21 as, oh, he's still young. He's a young player. And I don't know why. It seems to be in other leagues they let these players flourish. They give them a chance. But fingers crossed. As I say, if these young lads start doing well, then it's a matter of bringing them in next season, any of the good ones, and letting them have a few games and seeing how they go. But it's, I suppose, easier said than done. As you said there, Baz, the pressure of having to win every game as well is a tough one. I see in the comments there, Flip Mate exploded between Raskin and Lewis Ferguson. Lewis Ferguson's twice the player that Raskin is. Raskin's twice the player that Lewis Ferguson is. Everyone has their different opinions in that one. Do you want to start? Do you want? Well, this is the last question before we go off. Marcus, do you want to get stuck in that debate? Throwing you under the bus there, mate.
Thanks for that. No, I've seen Lewis Ferguson again. I'm pleased to say, not on YouTube, but on some games, and obviously playing for Scotland. And he was, he's a very good, influential player. Nico Raskin is Nico Raskin, isn't he? I mean, sometimes some of his performances, well, the performances for Belgium in the World Cup were fantastic, and I think that's what we're basing really what we'd like from 20 odd million plus. But with regard to Rangers, I don't blame him solely because of the change of managers, change of playing styles, but he's just been indifferent. Play a couple of really good games, and then there's a frustration. So I just think he needs to move really for his own benefit. To be honest, I I don't know how to compare. I'm going to right. I think if Lewis Ferguson came to Rangers, which I don't think it will happen, I think that he would show a bit more consistency and not play a couple of games and then just fizzle out. So if he was given the opportunity, I think he would be a better player for Rangers. But I'll be honest with you, I got a gut feeling that he won't be signing. I might be wrong, but and again, when we spoke to Jamie last week, he said that not exclusively, but the whole thing is if Raskin does go and generate funds, then that could open up whether it's another midfielder. But as Scott mentioned earlier on, that could also open up another striker, winger, and centre back. So I don't know. I mean, I think Nico Raskin needs to move, and I think that Ferguson would be a very good, more consistent player for Rangers, but I don't think it's going to happen. How about that for an answer, William?
Hell, you went round the houses there. You could be a politician. Uh, you came round there without you done what we were talking about earlier, being an expert at answering the question without answering it. And you know what? Both sides will be happy. So you're definitely a good politician. Um, see, to be honest, but Marcus said something there, Scott and Baz. I'll ask the both of you and we'll sort of wrap it up. But that was a great thing that Marcus just said there. A certain player can be a better player on paper or whatever, but it doesn't mean they could be the better player for Rangers and in the Scottish game. And how many times have we seen good players coming and we've seen other ones who we didn't think would make it? But it's because we know in the Scottish League it's a different mentality, it's a different sport altogether at times in Scotland. And I think that's a good point. Maybe the better player on paper wouldn't be the better player to actually come up and do a job for Rangers week on, week out.
No, I get what you're saying, William. I think when I wouldn't compare it to them myself because it's difficult. I mean, I like Nico Raskin. I think he's a tremendous footballer, but consistency's been an issue. But obviously, different midfield partners, different managers, different setups hasn't really helped him. But I think now's the time Nico has to move for his own development as well. And I think it's probably the right time to sell him due to the fact hopefully we get some money for him. I don't know much it'll be, but I think we'll get something. Obviously contracts get 2 years, next year it'll be 1 year, so we probably get less. As for Lewis Ferguson, I've always liked Lewis as a player. When he was at Hamilton, I recommended him to a club in obviously he ended up at Aberdeen, but I think Lewis is the type of player that would do well with Rangers. I think his football suits the Scottish League as well, the way he plays. My only thing would be is he's on a lot of money at Bologna and it's a very high fee we'd have to pay for him. I get people saying you don't get anything back, but not every player you buy you expect a return. I just nowadays people do, but we need some experience, which we don't have a lot of experience. So paying that money for some of the experience would help us. It probably would. Some money for me. I think you'd have to come in and be really good because you know yourself, William and Baz and Marcus. He comes in after signing him for say 15, 20 million and he has a couple of bad games. The fans are on his case straight away. Why did we sign him? He's not good enough. Blah blah blah. Wasted that money. Who do you think he is? Because his uncle's Barry and his dad's Derek. He's good enough for Rangers. All that nonsense starts to come out. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think Derek. I think Lewis would be a good player for Rangers, but I don't know if I would spend that money on him. I think he will play with us one day, but I don't think it'll be this summer.
What you just said, I said the Baz as well. Didn't the Baz? I was like, this was a few weeks ago. We were just chatting as we do, and I did mention that we both agreed that Rangers actually do need a couple of players that we sign that are good quality, but ones that we know is going to be here for the long run. You know, guys that you can sort of build a squad around. And I get why you need potential as well, because you have to balance the books. Of course, you need to buy certain players that you know you're going to sell or hope that go for big money. I get all that. That makes so much sense when we don't have TV money and stuff. But you still need a few players, or I think that you just buy and go, you know what, he's ours. He's going to be here for 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, and you know you won't get your return, but that's 5 or 6 years of what they give you pays you back that way by winning tournaments and getting you into higher European competition, etc. Baz, I say so. With that you end with that one then, Baz. You're a big Raskin fan. I think you're the same as us all. Though if he wasn't to sign a contract, now's the time to sell, isn't it? Let's be honest. But you also like Ferguson as well, so he'd be a good replacement. Only thing I would say is I think if the window or what we're trying to do is get obviously the three forward players, but if Raskin was to go for big money, I think would replace him for a decent midfielder, and the same as Fernandez. If Fernandez late towards the window was to go as a centre back and sold for big money, I think would replace there as well. But it seems to be we're going for the forward line. But what's your thoughts on the whole Raskin Ferguson debate, Baz?
It's so difficult on that one. I'm usually a straight shooter, but that is one of the most difficult ones to get your head around. I mean, that really, really is. I said in the show earlier, also can't contradict myself. I've always said about, we built the squad around Barry Ferguson, around Stephen Davis, and I think you can do that with a Lewis Ferguson. I think that's a mainstay player. Lewis Ferguson isn't going to come to Rangers. Like Raskin's aspirations are to play in the Premier League. He said it years ago. He wanted to play for a Chelsea, etc. So his aspirations are somewhere else in the back of his mind. He's always had that. So we know that we're Raskin. I think with a Lewis Ferguson coming to Rangers, if it was in this window, he's here like Callum McGregor is with Emmons. He's there for the long haul. He could be here. He could be at Rangers for 5, 6, 7 seasons possibly. And I think that's where Rangers really need to get to. Whether he comes or not, Scott's alluded about the high wages, etc. Who knows? Will Rangers pull out all the stops to do it? I don't know, but it will. The main ingredient is that Nico Raskin has to go for that to have any chance of happening. What I would personally say is if the Lewis Ferguson isn't coming in this window, if he's not coming whatsoever, sit Nico Raskin down, give him to sign a year's contract and keep him at the club for another season. Because in my opinion, I don't see where, outside of Lewis Ferguson, I don't see where Rangers go into the market and replace Raskin with a better player. I think Lewis Ferguson's the only obvious one that you could bring in that you'd be happy enough to replace the two. So for me, if Ferguson isn't there, make Raskin sign a year's contract and keep him for another season. Because the owners have already said they're not willing to sell players to bring lower quality in behind them. So where's this other player outside of Lewis Ferguson can replace Raskin? I just don't see where these players are that we can do it. So I'm sort of a wee bit in the fence, sir. If Ferguson comes, great. Sell Raskin, that's all the best. If Ferguson doesn't come, get Raskin down for a year's contract extension and keep him at the club for another year. That's where I would be with that.
So that's another one, Scott. That's any politicians, any parties over here excited to watch that Baz one. He's another good one. We'll get him recruited, make a local councillor. But here,
where else do you go with it, but William? Where else do you go?
I know. It's a hard one.
For me, it's one or the other. I think if Raskin goes and no Ferguson doesn't come, that midfield is weaker. It's much weaker.
Yeah. No, well, I'll say we'll see how that goes.
Out there right enough. Apart from Lewis Ferguson, you could bring in cheaper and they could make a difference to the team. I think it's just you have to get your scouting right. You have to recruit a right profile to play with us, and I think sometimes we don't. So I think there's a lot of players. As you can see with some of the targets we're going for, they've been in various parts of the world. We're looking at different places. So I think there'll be a player there. It just depends how much you're willing to spend on somebody. And Lewis Ferguson has a big pot of money. Whereas for his money, he could probably bring in maybe 2 or 3 players. Do you know what I mean? So I think it just depends on where the recruitment team are and what the manager wants certain positions. So you can maybe bring in 2 or 3 for the money you get for Lewis. And is Lewis going to be the final piece of the jigsaw? I'm not sure.
No, you're still. It still doesn't sort out your attacking midfielder. You're desperately needing that can spot a pass, I suppose. That's another issue we've had for a while. But yeah, Listen, it was great chat as always. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that. Scotty, we'll let you end it, mate. Obviously, you've been here. If I know we've mostly the same viewers, mate, because our shows are very similar. The crack and banter that we have. But if for anyone is watching or listens to this through Heart and Hand, etc., when we're on the Patreon, who doesn't know what your show is or hasn't heard of it, mate, you want to just let them know what you're about and how to catch you.
Yeah, thanks William for inviting me back on tonight. I really enjoyed it with you. I was on with Marcus the other day with Chris, so that was good as well. So on Bold and Blue, which is another one. But you can catch Not Another Rangers podcast on a Monday and a Friday night at 8:30. But we're not on tonight as we're taking a night off because we spoke about everything that you spoke about tonight before, and there's no point going over the same stuff. And because there's no game until Thursday, we'll go back on Friday. So tonight we're off. But catch us Monday and a Friday, just on YouTube, nowhere else. Well, I think we're on Spotify and Apple, but I mean watching us on YouTube.
There you go. And as I say, guys, anyone enjoy this, you'll enjoy Scotty's show because it's great crack, great bunch of guys on there as well, and just as like ourselves, how to have a bit of fun, have a bit of a laugh, but up and down as always with Rangers. That's what the do to us, unfortunately, and everyone in the comments knows the same because we're all just Rangers diehards. Thank you, Baz, as always, mate. I hope you enjoyed the show. Marcus, yourself as well. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us, and everyone that listened in. Big game on Thursday. I'll try and get a show sorted out. I'll speak to the guys behind the scenes and see if we can get something up for the preview the upcoming game on Thursday. But as you know, it was only an hour. There was so much to talk about, so it's hard to get that in. So we'll try and get something organised for you before that. But if not, we'll be speaking to you, I'm sure, after that game. But hopefully we get speaking to you before. We'll wait and see. Thank you for watching, as always. Appreciate it. And we'll speak to you again very soon.